Saints season to remember, and the road to the Super Bowl starts right now. The players are ready. The coaches are ready. Now it's time to get you ready as the black and gold marches to Miami. It's a Saints on 6 playoff preview.
We are inside the Superdome, home of the top seed in the NFC playoffs, the New Orleans Saints. Good evening, everyone. I'm Fletcher Mackel.
I'm Keely Fulton, and all the Saints have to do is win just 2 more games inside this building, and they will head to the Super Bowl for the first time in team history.
Now, coming up over the next hour, we're going to tell you everything the Saints need to do to make that dream a reality.
What will it take for the Saints to move on to the NFC title game? We'll have a preview of their playoff opener.
The bye week gives the team a chance to heal. We'll ask medical editor Dr. Corey Hebert which injuries are most serious.
It's been a season-long highlight reel. Tonight, we show you the top 10 plays of the year.
The regular season is over and it's report card time. Who's going home with an A and who didn't make the grade?
He was part of one of the most famous plays in Saints history. We'll catch up with former Saints kicker Tom Dempsey to find out what he thinks of this year's team.
And if you think the Saints are going to the Super Bowl, you can put your money where your mouth is. We'll show you how much it will cost to book your trip to the big game.
But we start with the home field advantage. The Saints no doubt glad the only trip they have left to make this season would be one to Miami and the Super Bowl.
But just how valuable is the #1 seed in the NFC playoffs? WDSU news anchor Scott Walker is in our Saints on 6 studio with the answer.
As the Saints know all too well from their last 2 games at the Dome, home field is no guarantee of success. But we cracked open the record books to see how playoff teams have been faring when they take the field in familiar confines. A 13-0 sprint to start the season put the Saints in prime position to land the top seed in the NFC. And even as they dropped their next 2 games, New Orleans was able to secure home field advantage with a week left in the regular season. But how much of an advantage is it? We crunched the numbers from the past 5 postseasons, 50 games in all, excluding Super Bowls. And here's how the home team fared. Playoff teams from the 2 conferences combined for a record of 28-22 and a winning percentage of .560. A slight edge to be sure, but not the dominance some fans would expect. Saints players can explain it.
But I think a lot of times when teams go on the road, I've noticed this, is that you're kind of like a band of brothers. And a lot of times you play as a closer knit. When you're at home, you can be a little bit more relaxed at times. And that's something that we're going to make sure we fight. The fact that we've seen teams come in here these last couple of weeks and beat us on our home field, we know that having home field doesn't mean too much. We still have to come out and play our best football. And that's the way we take this 1 seed and carry it into the Super Bowl.
Something else to consider. Of the #1 seeds, only 4 of the 10 during that 5-year stretch even reached the Super Bowl, and none of them actually won the big game. In fact, you have to go all the way back to the 2003 season for the last time the top seed won the title game. That was when the New England Patriots beat Carolina in Super Bowl 38.
But be that as it may, you know what, for a team like the Saints, home field guarantee might be a little bit more important because the last time the Saints played a road playoff game, it was not Saints friendly.
No, it was not. We were there. The black and gold marched into freezing temperatures in Chicago, and they marched home with a loss. The team had 3 turnovers that day in absolutely horrible conditions, including 2 fumbles while playing outside.
But the good news is the Saints have enjoyed a playoff dome field advantage since the year 2000. That year, the Saints made its 2nd biggest comeback in franchise history to win its first ever postseason game against the St. Louis Rams. Then just 3 years ago, another first for the boys in black and gold, a 27-24 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles in the Dome sent the Saints to Chicago for its first ever NFC Championship game.
Now, while dome field advantage could obviously help the Saints this season, there is one more stat or one other stat working against the team.
Unfortunately, Unfortunately, no team has ever lost its final 3 regular season games and advanced to a Super Bowl. The Saints' perfect 13-0 season was shattered in the Dome by the Dallas Cowboys. The streak continued with a second loss at home to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Already secured as the NFC top seed, most of the Saints starters stood on the sidelines as the team took its final hit on the road against Carolina. But the boys in black and gold say they're not worried about stats. In fact, players say they like the fact that the so-called experts are now writing them off.
I would agree with that because we have a lot of guys who are former cast-offs on this team. So you have a lot of guys who have always been kind of underdogs, guys who have bounced around. You got a lot of former walk-ons on this team, a lot of guys who are undrafted, a lot of guys who are, left for dead from other teams. So you have a lot of those guys in this locker room, and they're hungry. They like being the underdog. So this is a good position to be in.
It's time to go in the trenches with Brad Edelman as we break down the Saints' playoff chances despite the losing streak. Brad played with the black and gold from 1982 to 1989. He was drafted in the second round out of the University of Missouri, and Brad made the Pro Bowl in 1987. Thanks, as always, for joining us tonight.
Now, we've talked about this 3-game losing streak kind of ad nauseum, but do you think this is going to weigh heavily on the minds of the players?
I don't think so. As a player, to me, we've broken stats all year long, personal stats, team stats. This is another stat that's meant to be broken. You go into this game, this is a whole new season. We lost 3 games at the end of the year. We all know the circumstances around those losses. I don't think it's a factor to the extent that we let it be a factor.
Okay, let's talk about the offense in those final 3 games. We're also going to be joined later with former Saints quarterback John Fourcade. You're a former All-Pro offensive lineman. Are you concerned about the offense? Throw out the Carolina game. Against Tampa and Dallas, they only scored 17 points in each of those games. They averaged 34 for the first 13 games. Concerned?
I'm concerned about the stats in those games, but I will still argue that the reason our defense has been slower, the reason our offense has not put up as many points is because of the injuries that we've had on this club, and that every club goes through a little down period during their schedule. Will we come back with the momentum? That is the key factor. Is our psychology strong enough to come back after this time down and put our best game on the field? But if we're healthy, we can beat any team in this league. Speaking
of psychology, do you think that underdog mentality is going to fuel this team in the postseason?
I don't see why not. Losing those last few games, it certainly should inspire this club. We know we're not infallible. We know we're a strong club, and I still submit one of the best clubs in this league. But anytime you lose a game like that, you realize, hey, there's some things we can fix. Let's do it. Let's get on to it, and we need to come out smoking.
Brad, thank you very much. We'll see you again in the next half hour.
All right.
All right, now we all know that home field advantage and having the top seed is a good thing, but being the #1 seed also has another benefit.
That's right. It gives the team a bye in time to heal. Unfortunately, the rest won't help Charles Grant. The starting left defensive end was placed on injured reserve this week following surgery on his tricep. Grant was injured in Sunday's loss against the Panthers. Saints general manager Mickey Loomis announced the team re-signed defensive end Paul Spicer to take Grant's spot on the roster, but it's more than likely Bobby McCray will start in Grant's place.
But for some of the other injured Saints, the bye week couldn't have come at a better time.
Running back Pierre Thomas says he'll play despite having 3 broken ribs. We're on call with WDSU medical editor Dr. Corey Hebert and WDSU news anchor Melanie Hebert and Hebert, breaking down Thomas's injuries and the rest of the Saints' injuries. But first, let's hear from Pierre Thomas.
Just something like this, you don't want nothing to happen. I don't want any of my ribs to penetrate my lungs, and I definitely have critical problems. But I want to be smart and safe. If I need to take a rest, I need to take a rest. And let them heal up. But when it get closer to that playoff game, I got to make a decision right there. But my decision is I'm playing.
So, Dr. Hebert, what do you think after hearing that statement? Do you think Thomas is ready to play?
Well, players want to play. That's the way it is. But, he's got broken ribs. We look here, we see that the ribs actually cover the lungs and protect the lungs. The problem is that if he re-injures those ribs, then possibly he could get a puncture of his lung. Now, will that happen? Probably not, okay? But at the same time, we got to remember that, this is something when he wants to play, he'll know how much pain he can take, and he knows the risk. But broken ribs happen all the time, and you really can't just put a cast on them because that's just not part of how you repair it. They have to heal themselves. If he wants to play, he can play.
All right, next injury we want to talk about is tight end Jeremy Shockey's toe. Of course, all these injuries make me cringe, but how serious would this be?
Turf toe is very, very common. It's not very serious, but once again, it's kind of one of those things where there's no real descriptive injury. It's just the fact that this hurts. It usually comes when players are planting and shifting their weight, and so it becomes very painful. And so when you're having to shift your weight back and forth in a game like that, and you have pain, you are not at your optimal level. And so once again, it's going to be a Shockey situation because he's going to say, look, my toe feels good enough to make those plants so that I can catch the ball, so that I can make the things happen for the Saints. It's really up to him in the pain level. We don't like these players taking all this pain medicine, but we know that this is painful and it should be ready to go.
And starting cornerback Jabari Greer is back after missing 7 games due to a sports hernia. He had surgery, of course, to fix his injury. So do you think he'll be 100% in the playoffs?
With sports hernias, you know, it's a quick fix. You know, they go in, they repair, they push down the area that was bulging, they put a Gore-Tex patch over it. This is something that we do all the time. We fix it, and you know, granted, if he gets a strong hit right there, the area is not as strong as it was before the surgery, but it's strong enough. I mean, he's had enough time to get this thing healed. He should be fine.
And you know, this is a serious injury for all players, really. Concussions is what we're talking about, really for all athletes. And linebacker Scott Shanley, also cornerback Randall Gay, both returning from concussions. What do you have to say about that?
Now, this is one that really, really gets under my skin because, you know, we had this whole, you know, Hines Ward, Ben Roethlisberger thing when Roethlisberger had a concussion. Hines Ward called him like a sissy or whatever, you know. This is not anything to play with. We've seen football players, high school, college, and pro, never return from concussions. And once you get 2 or 3 of these things, you may not be the same. Those guys really need to make sure that the team neurologist is looking at them and making sure they are clear to go. We don't want to have any problems with those guys. We need them for many more seasons after this one because this is a winning one. We'll have a winning way after this too.
You got that right. We have our fingers crossed. And that's what bothers the wives when they're watching the games, right?
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Hebert, thanks so much for your medical expertise. Go Saints.
Go
Fletcher
Saints.
and Keeley, back to you guys.
Dr. Hebert, Melanie Hebert, Hebert and Hebert, thank you so very much. Now, the players who aren't injured took advantage of the bye week in different ways.
I asked some of the guys what they did to pass the time.
While having the #1 seed means the Saints will have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, earning the top spot in the conference earned the black and gold something even better, R&R.
I'm just going to get some rest, you know, catch up. Once we don't know who we're going to play yet, so, you know, we'll all be watching the games. But really just get some rest, get your body back to feeling good, get a fresh mental start, and ready to make this run.
And while some of the guys will spend most of their time with their feet up, offensive lineman John Stinchcomb's week off will be a little more structured. You might even say he'll be following a honey-do list.
I think I'm going to be putting together baby strollers and cribs and packing plays and whatever else. You know, with little man due in 3 weeks, I'll have a pretty packed week of, I'm sure, painting and setting up and putting up pictures and everything else.
Safety Roman Harper will be painting as well, as in painting the town red as he heads to California to watch Alabama take on Texas in the national championship game. But will he take advantage of SoCal's world-renowned spas?
I got great skin, actually, so no facials or anything for me, man. I'm going to try and relax a little bit, try and work on my arms so they look good for the playoffs, and that's about all I'm going to be doing, man. Kick back, relaxing, watching the game, go to the game, cheer my guys on, and hopefully come back with a championship.
You work on your tan out in Cali?
No, not at all. Not at all. No tan needed around here. I'm good. All arms, though. I just want to be able to take my shirt off and get away with it.
Tracy Porter is hoping to keep his body in shape during the bye week, too, especially since one of the places he'll be visiting will be his mom's kitchen.
I mean, it's going to be hard, but, you know, I have to minimize my intake on what she tries to give me. You know, I don't want to eat too much and put on a couple pounds that'll hinder me on the back end, you know, come playoff time.
Now, the regular season is, of course, over for the Saints, so we wanted to take a look back at the best and unfortunately the worst.
And the not so good.
And the not so good.
We're grading all the positions to see how the Saints shape up. And we're starting with the defensive line.
With a career-high 13 sacks, 3 passes defended, 1 interception, and a team-leading 3 forced fumbles, Will Smith is having an A year. The rest of his line mates, though, haven't been holding up their end of the bargain. The unit started off well. Through the first 5 games of the season, the D-line was a huge part of the Saints' ability to stop the run. The black and gold allowed less than 85 rushing yards per game. They were also ranked top 10 in the league in rush defense early in the season. But since then, they've tailed off considerably. Without defensive tackle Cedric Ellis to help plug up the middle and take on double teams, the defense has plummeted to 21st in the NFL in stopping the run. But the Saints still finished 13-3, and without the D-line, the team wouldn't have had 39 takeaways. So for that, they pass, but not with flying colors. C-.
And we're not done handing out grades. Later in this special, we're going to hand out grades to the receivers, the running backs, and the quarterbacks.
Definitely. Stay with us. There's much more of our Saints on 6 playoff preview coming up next.
You've seen every Saints game this year, but which plays are your favorite? We rank the top 10 moments of the 2009 season. Plus, we're 7 days from the first Saints playoff game. We'll break down the matchup. And he's one of the most famous players in team history. We'll sit down with Tom Dempsey to see where he is now and what he thinks of the Saints Super Bowl chances.
At WDSU.
You're watching the WDSU Saints on 6 playoff preview from the Louisiana Superdome.
Welcome back. You know, the Saints season has been full of highlight reel plays that have lit up the scoreboard here in the Dome and brought fans and sometimes members of the media to their feet.
And there are so many great plays, it was hard for us to narrow it down to just 10. So we went to you, the fans, and asked you what your favorite plays from this year were.
How you doing? My name is Mark Brooks, and my favorite play was when Dever Henderson scored against the Patriots.
Thanks, Mark. Play number 10 is Henderson's wide-open, busted coverage, 75-yard touchdown reception on Monday night against the Patriots. The catch was the Saints' longest TD score of the season.
I'm Ed Cassier, and the Redskins game was amazing. I'll go with Hartley's game-winning kick.
Good call, Ed. Top play number 9 was Hartley's first ever game winner. The Skins game was also Hartley's first game of the season. In all, the second-year pro kicked 4 field goals in that game, helping the Saints to a perfect 12-0 record.
Hey, what's up? My name's Jared, and I hate the Falcons. So Jabari Greer's interception return for a touchdown was my favorite play of the year.
Nice call, Jared. Play number 8 is Greer's INT return. It came just before halftime and seemed to take the life out of arch-rival Atlanta.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I'm a big fan of Jeremy Shockey. This is one of his best plays. Go Saints!
Jim, there was nothing special about play number 7, Shockey's TD grab against the New York Giants in Week 5 of the regular season. But it did allow the big tight end to exact some revenge against the team that gave up on him.
Hi, my name is Janet, and my favorite play is when Remy Odell scored the touchdown against the Jets. Go Saints! Woo!
Janet, what an exciting play for number 6. Remy Odell scored after Will Smith forced a fumble from Jets QB Mark Sanchez. One of the most exciting plays of the season. Great call for play number 6. Play number 5 is dealer's choice. We're picking it, and we here at WDSU say Pierre Thomas's effort against the Buffalo Bills is top play number 5. Playing on a sore knee and battling the flu, Thomas had 126 yards and 2 scores, all in the second half.
Hi, my name is Chelsea, and my favorite play of the season is when Drew Brees had his touchdown slam dunk.
Chelsea, excellent call. On play number 4, Brees showed guts going over the pile on the QB keeper, and then tremendous athleticism dunking the ball over the goalpost. Hey, the Hornets are looking for help at shooting guard. Maybe Brees can help them out.
Okay, my name is Randall, a.k.a. Trip, a.k.a. Ram Jones. And I'm letting you know Sharper was the favorite play of my season when he intercepted the ball against the New York Jets and ran it in for a touchdown. Way to go, baby.
Great enthusiasm, Randall. Play number 3 was the longest interception return for a TD in Saints history, 99 yards by Darren Sharper. The play against the Jets also told the rest of the NFL that the Saints defense meant business.
My name is Rashid LaCour. My favorite play for this year's season was when Reggie Bush flew from the 6-yard line into the end zone at the Miami game.
Rashid, just a great call. Play number 2 actually put Reggie Bush on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Reggie's leap in Miami will go down as one of the signature moments of 2009.
Hi, my name is Kenny Matthews, and the number 1 play is Robert Meacham steals the ball, takes it in for a touchdown. Who dat? Go Saints.
Kenny, great call for play number 1. Was there ever really a doubt? I'm sure Saints fans everywhere agree with you. Robert Meacham stripping the ball and then scoring a touchdown against the Redskins showed hustle, determination, and a never-give-up attitude that the entire team has embraced, and that's helped the black and gold to its best season ever. I was on the field in D.C. for Robert Meacham's great play. It was cold but tremendous stuff. Now, the one thing that you may have noticed was lacking from our top 10 plays, or from the fans' top 10 plays, not a lot of special teams highlights.
Well, there's a good reason for that, because this year the special teams didn't play so special. In fact, you can say they were a bit of a problem spot, but that's why head coach Sean Payton has made a drastic move in hopes of giving the unit a boost.
One punt, one kick return, you know, it gets so close here, can be the difference in winning and losing.
And that's why when it comes to special teams, Sean Payton isn't taking any chances. When the Saints host their first playoff game, Payton plans to put more speed on the unit by adding guys like Scott Fujita, Roman Harper, and Scott Shanley to the mix.
I just think you're at that point in the season where there's nothing to save. I mean, you can't, there's no legs to save. You got to put it all out there on the field, and whoever's the best punt cover guy, whoever's the best kickoff cover guy, you got to get him on the field, regardless of how many snaps they're playing offense or defense.
I think it's pretty common. I think you're going to see the other. I think it's pretty common at this point in the season. You're going to see probably every game played this weekend with guys putting their best possible players at those positions because of the obviously the weight in the game.
We understand now we need all hands on deck, and it's time to pedal to the metal. And you know, no matter what they need us to do in the first playoff game, second playoff game, whatever it takes, we're going to do it.
Payton's plan to put in some of his hardest hitters may be old hat, but some of the special teams' less than special play this season may have also factored into his decision. The Saints give up the 4th most yards per kickoff with 24.5 in the league. The longest return was 87 yards in week 1. Their punt coverage hasn't been much better. The black and gold give up the most punt return yardage per average in the league, a somewhat misleading stat given they don't punt a lot. But the shoddy play caught up with them in week 16 when Tampa Bay's Michael Spurlock scored on a 77-yard punt return.
Week in and week out, it's always a field position game, especially in the playoffs, where every yard, every inch is crucial. And we know, you know, every little yard makes a difference. And we did this 4 years ago, too, in the playoffs. You know, certain guys had to step up and play special teams when they hadn't all season long. So we're going to do whatever it takes to win.
So my coaches always say you bring all your clubs with you to the golf course. We're going to try and use all our bullets. We're not going to leave anything out there. And if they beat you with your best out there, then they physically beat you. And you're not going to say, well, I wish I could have, or if I would have had this guy in or that, you know, maybe some things would have been differently. So go out there, play your best players, and see where the chips fall at the end.
Now it's time to break down the same special teams with our Monday evening quarterback, even though it's Saturday night, John Fourcade. Fourcade played quarterback for the Saints from 1987 until 1990. He led the team to its first ever playoff berth. And John, as I always say, you're a true warrior. You played in 5 different professional leagues, USFL, Arena Leagues, NFL. Let us have it.
Way to go, John. Well, we're going to start with the special teams. We heard Coach Payton and all the players in that piece say that field position is so important. Do you agree with this move to put the starters in on special teams?
Well, I'm sure he's going to use the starters at certain occasions on special teams, but right now they only got 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. He's going to have to go all out, wherever it takes to get the special teams to click along with the offense and defense. Right now, play your starters until one of them says, I can't go. Right now, it's a smart move.
Let's just talk a little bit more about that. As a guy who was was a quarterback, how much do you put into special teams? Obviously, one play can determine a game, but how much do the guys who are the starters look at special teams and really want to do it?
Well, I wasn't just a quarterback. I also held for Martin Anderson, and if I don't hold the ball right, he doesn't kick the ball right, I would probably get blamed for it. So all guys, you got all these players on the football team, and some of them have to step up and play for other players. Even though the young kids usually play special teams, your veteran players know at any moment now a young guy can go down, and you have to step to that plate to be able to get to go in right now. So right now, everybody who dresses out for a football game is entitled to be able to play on special teams. So right now, use whatever it takes to get to the next game to win.
Quickly, we have about 30 seconds in your segment here. The running backs, are you okay with the three-headed monster? Will they be healthy? Will they be productive in the postseason?
Well, it's like a baseball pitcher. You just can't come with a fastball. You got to throw a curve, you got to throw a screwball, and every now and then come in with a little knuckleball, and that's what Sean Payton does right now. He doesn't care who's back there. His offense is all around Drew Brees, and he doesn't care who's carrying that football.
All right, John, stay with us. We'll see you in our next half hour. And speaking of the running backs, that was a nice segue I tried to throw in there. Did you like that?
That was beautiful.
Okay, good. John Forkay talked about the running backs, and now we are going to talk about the running backs.
It's time to grade our running backs and see how they stacked up this year.
For the first time this decade, the Saints have utilized 3 running backs to wreak havoc on opposing defenses. Mike Bell and Pierre Thomas have been the perfect 1-2 punch and combined for 1,447 yards and 11 touchdowns. And when the duo isn't scoring TDs, they're putting defenses on their heels and paving the way for Reggie Bush to deliver the knockout blow. Bush has 8 touchdowns this season, 5 rushing, 3 receiving. The only reason we're giving them an A- instead of an A is because they allowed the Washington Redskins to hold them to just 55 rushing yards in Week 13.
Now, the Saints' success has, of course, taken the city by storm.
And the people who are enjoying this the most are those who've suffered the longest with the team, and that includes the Riders.
We join WDSU news anchor Scott Walker back in the WDSU studio with 2 writers who have been covering this team for a very long time.
All right, Fletcher and Keeley, I'm here in the WDSU studios with former WDSU sports director and current producer for event producers Ro Brown and Brian Ellie Walsh, former Times-Picayune sports writer and current writer for NewOrleans.com. Between the two of you guys, about 70 years covering Saints football. Not to make you feel old or anything.
Me
but
10, him 60.
There you go. We'll start with you, Ro. This rushing attack that we're hearing about, it started off gangbusters. Pierre Thomas hurt towards the end of the season. It's kind of tailed off. What do you see going into the postseason from the Saints running game?
I think it's imperative that they're able to run with the football, and I think it's imperative that Pierre plays. Mike Bell has done a terrific job with the Saints. You know, he's a power runner. He likes to run tough and run hard and everything, but Pierre gives him that little, shiftiness and coming out of the backfield, and I think it's very important that Pierre plays and plays well.
Brian, how do you feel about that 3-headed monster, so to speak?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they've done, Sean Payton's done a great job of balancing the 3 guys, Pierre Thomas, and the other 2 guys, and he's done a great job all season long. You know, Scott, what you've got to look at over the last 5 games, which is where they've kind of declined from an offensive standpoint, they were almost 50-50 run to pass. In the last 5 games, it's now almost become like a 3-to-1 ratio. And I think, ideally they'd like to get back to that evenly balanced kind of game call.
Well, those big leads in the early part of the season helped as well.
Do with it, absolutely.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't realize that the Saints were so 50-50 pass.
I know.
A lot of people thought they would just pass like they were last year and maybe the year before, but they were pretty balanced.
And another thing is Mike Bell has made such a difference. If you remember, the clamor last year was they couldn't make 3rd and short goal line situations and stuff like that. I went back and researched. They've converted 84% of their 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. This season compared to like 62% last year. And Mike Bell has been that extra push.
Sort of filled that Heath Evans void a little bit.
He really has. Yeah. And, when you think about these 3 guys, they've accounted for 1,800 yards as a threesome.
Exactly.
Now, it's not the Chris Johnson 2,000 plus, but those 3 guys have done a great job of running the football. And if Pierre can come in healthy, I mean, they're as good a running threesome there as there is in the league.
Of course, it's probably more important that they stop the run.
Yeah. Well, that can lead into this next question.
That's another topic for another day.
That leads into this. We've seen them falter at the end of the season. A lot has been made of resting people in the last week of the season. They have the bye week. Last time they had the bye week was 06. They got by the Eagles and made it to the NFC Championship. Of course, lost. Now we see another bye heading into this postseason game.
I think it's good to rest. I don't think the bye week is bad, like some people say, that it makes you rusty and that sort of thing. I mean, by the time they play, there will have been some people who may have had as much as 3 weeks to rest whatever injuries they had. So, I mean, I just think that it's, you know that it's a new season. They're 13-3. 13-3. Right. Okay,
you would have taken that at the beginning of the season if somebody
exactly.
offered that
They're 13-3, and I don't think they're worrying about what happened behind now, because now it's, it is literally a new season.
And being refreshed, a good thing, as opposed to having momentum.
Scott,
I'm for that.
Yeah, you can't replace that aspect of it, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
You always do.
As I always do. There's a school of thought is that, this team has not played well. Now, I discount the Carolina game, Scott, because that's a throwaway, okay? But it's the two previous games that I'm going to give some credence to, the Dallas and Tampa Bay games. Both were at home. Neither one, they did not play well for 60 minutes. In fact, you can make an argument that they have not played 60 minutes well, which will be almost 45 days when they haven't played well by the time they play the divisional round game. I think there is something to that momentum. There is also something to having a fresh, refreshed team mentally and physically, and it won't matter if they win. It'll only matter if they lose. So I don't know, you got to balance it here with the pros and cons.
I'm all for momentum. Yeah, I agree with you there. With how they play, or how they looked, or whether or not they lost these last 3 games. Momentum, I'm all for that, but I'm talking about from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint.
And I think it's refreshing. And Sean has been here before. He's done the same thing in 06, and it worked well. They've got a good prescription on how to deal with this. But again, it all comes back. Is this team good enough to push the button to kind of play the football that they were playing back in September and October and early November?
The good thing is we don't have to wait much longer to find out which way it goes.
Exactly.
It's coming.
Ro Brown, Brian Alley Walsh, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Scott.
Scott, Ro, and Brian, thank you very much. On a side note, I interned here at WDSU for Ro Brown about 15 years ago.
I wasn't old enough to intern then. I was in high school, but that's okay.
Whatever. We look the same age. Now let's continue grading the Saints.
It's time to take a closer look at the Saints receivers.
Robert Meacham finally blossomed into the deep threat the Saints thought he could be when they drafted him 2 years ago. Devery Henderson got more sure-handed, and with a team-high 1,074 receiving yards, Marcus Colston, well, he was Marcus Colston. The trio's reliability, along with tight ends Jeremy Shockey and Dave Thomas, are a big reason the Saints have the #1 offense in the league, and Drew Brees leads the NFL with 34 touchdowns. And when he wasn't sidelined with an ankle injury, Lance Moore also proved to be a reliable pair of hands for Brees. Basically, anyone who caught a pass from Brees had a chance to score, and at nearly 12 yards per catch, they ate up a big chunk of the field. Receivers, you get an A.
Now, our report card isn't complete just yet. Next up, we'll hand out grades to the quarterbacks and the defensive backs.
And stay with us, everyone. There's much more of the Saints on 6 playoff preview coming up.
The Saints have waited all week to find out who they will play in the first playoff game. But you don't have to wait much longer to find out how the black and gold match up in the divisional round of the playoffs. Plus, he kicked himself into the record books. What Saints legend Tom Dempsey is doing now. And if you're thinking about heading to the Super Bowl with the Saints, you need to know what it will cost. We'll break down the dollars and cents of a Saints Super Bowl trip. You're watching the WDSU Saints on 6 playoff preview from the Louisiana Superdome.
Welcome back. It's one of the most famous kicks in NFL history, and the Saint who drilled this 63-yard field goal still lives here in New Orleans.
That's right. This week I caught up with Tom Dempsey to find out what he thinks of this year's Saints team.
This is Rams.
Rams versus Dallas, yeah.
Tom Dempsey loves showing off the game balls he earned kicking game winners during his 11-year NFL career.
That was on a Monday Night Football game. Made a tackle in open field.
And while Dempsey kicked for 5 different NFL teams, he remains loyal to one franchise.
I'm a Saint. I'll always be a Saint, even though I played other places. Will always be a Saint. And I couldn't be prouder of these guys.
And because Dempsey is considered one of the greatest kickers in NFL history, we had to ask him about the Saints' current kicking situation. Was it a smart move to cut veteran John Carney and replace him with second-year pro Garrett Hartley?
And Hartley is a good kicker. I watched him kick. I watched the way the ball comes off his foot. He's a good, solid kicker, but everybody misses occasionally. I missed game winners twice. Morton Anderson missed him. The great Morton Anderson missed one for it. It just happens to you. But he's come back.
Dempsey was born and raised in Southern California and played only 2 seasons with the Saints, but he and his wife fell in love with the city during their time here and made New Orleans their full-time home once he retired from the NFL. So it goes without saying that for the last 3 decades, Dempsey has followed the Saints very, very closely.
This was the most fun that I've ever had watching football this year. I have nothing but respect for the players. These guys are winners, and they got big hearts. Even with all the injuries, they came fighting back and fighting back and fighting back. And to be honest with you, I've seen a lot of coaches, played for some good coaches, and played against a lot of good coaches. This is the best job of coaching that I've ever seen on a team with Coach Payton and his staff.
And the Saints' success this season has placed Dempsey back in the spotlight, too. He's been inundated with the request to talk about the team and to relive his magic moment from November 8th, 1970, the day Dempsey kicked his NFL record-setting 63-yard field goal.
You know, the older you get, the nicer it is to be remembered. There's no question about that. And I'm proud of that kick. I truly am. And it's like I tell everybody around the world, they say, well, someone's going to break it. And I said, yeah, but I'm still better below sea level than you.
Now, Tom Dempsey told me that he's a huge fan of Saints quarterback Drew Brees, who isn't, and the quarterback position has obviously been the Saints' most consistent position all season long.
But did Drew Brees and Mark Brunell make the grade? Now let's take a look at the quarterbacks.
Drew Brees may have had some less than stellar performances this season. The first 3 quarters of the Dallas game comes to mind. But for every Dallas disaster, there was a dominance over Detroit, where he threw a franchise record 6 touchdowns, a slaying of Giants, where he threw 4 touchdowns, and a Patriot pounding. He threw 5 touchdowns in that one. The player who earned his 4th Pro Bowl selection in the last 6 seasons tied his career high this year with the league-leading 34 TD passes. He also rushed for 2. But since we are grading the entire position, we have to give the group an A-. Brees can thank Mark Brunell's 15 for 30, 102-yard, 1 interception performance against Carolina for that.
And now here to help us break down the quarterbacks and the atmosphere in the Superdome, Brad Edelman and John Fourcade.
Well, we're going to start with our favorite quarterback, John Fourcade, and talk about the quarterbacks. If you're Drew Brees, how does what has happened during the season and some of those less than stellar performances, again, I mentioned Dallas and other games, how does that fuel you going into the postseason?
Well, now, Drew's looking at this as a second season, and the other season's over with. That was a regular season. This is the most important one. 2 wins, you're in the Super Bowl. You can't play 16 straight games and play the level he's played early in the season. You're going to have the rocky road. We'll see how he comes back. He's a professional, all-pro quarterback. I guarantee you Drew Brees will bounce back and so will the New Orleans Saints.
All right, Drew Brees talks about loving playing in the Superdome. What kind of atmosphere do you expect? I guess it goes without saying it's going to be intense, crazy, unbelievable in here.
Well, I would hope it's going to be a fever pitch. Who Dat Nation, you've had your rest too. We've had our rest. It's time to bring it. Time to bring it for the first home playoff game.
Talk about, you've played in some big games here, 87 playoff games. You were here for the 06 game. Just talk about what the atmosphere could be like in here.
Well, you know, there's a sense of urgency on the field and a sense of urgency for the fans. We know it could be the last game. So every moment, every play is important, and it's going to be packed with some juice. So it should be a lot of fun.
All right, Brad, thank you so much.
And real quick question for you, John. What is it like as a quarterback when you have that sense of urgency and you know that this is really do or die time?
Well, it all falls on you, the quarterback. You'll get every snap, that ball will touch your hands. Every play offensively, you're in control of what goes on out there. And right now, we got one of the best in the league, so I have no problem with Drew Brees driving my ship or boating my boat or whatever you want to call it. You know, paddling my boat. Right now, Drew Brees is the leader of this group.
Captain of the ship. All right, thank you so much, John and Brad. Well, certainly no one on the Saints organization is looking past the playoffs, but a few fans definitely are. Super Bowl 44 will take place in South Florida, and can you believe it, just 4 weeks.
That's right, and if you want to dream big, Super Bowl, think big bucks. Let's kick it back to WDSU news anchor Scott Walker, who breaks down the damage.
If what we found is any indicator, it may indeed be a once-in-a-lifetime chance for fans of the black and gold. Should New Orleans reach the Super Bowl, you can expect to pay super prices to see the game in person. First, of course, you have to get there. Luckily for Saints fans, though, that's not a major haul. A round-trip flight into Miami International, leaving Armstrong Airport on Friday and coming home the day after the big game will run you about $500 a ticket. We did find available rooms at a name-brand 3-star hotel located about 15 minutes from the stadium. Your cost, $310 per night. The real deal, at least among our discoveries, is in car rentals. No big increase over the norm here. An intermediate-sized car will run you about $40 a day. And it's a good thing you're not going for a gas guzzler, because you'll need that leftover gas money for tickets to the game itself. The cheapest set that we found on one of the major resale sites is priced at more than $1,900 per ticket. And you can toss in another $115 for a parking pass. Add it all up, and a 3-day trip for two will set you back about $6,000. Keep in mind, that's without any expenses for food, entertainment, and souvenirs. So Fletcher and Keeley, supersized games usually come with those supersized ticket prices.
Wow, I'm glad we're going for free.
Let's hope we're going for free if the Saints make it there. Now, quarterback Tracy Porter is a man of many looks, from stars to spiders. The Saint has sported some unique hairstyles this season.
We caught up with Porter to find out how he comes up with his signature style.
With 12 passes defended, 4 interceptions, a touchdown return, and 2 forced fumbles, cornerback Tracy Porter has clearly had a standout year. You might even say this second-year player's star is rising. And apparently, Porter wants his hair to reflect his play.
I just, want to come with something different every week. It's just a trend that I picked up, that I wanted to do.
Porter began decorating his luscious locks in week 6, and he's had a different hairstyle every week since. Porter says he and his barber decide what do he'll don next.
This final week that with the spider web, I just said, man, I don't know what I want, but I want something to cover the whole head. Say, all right, I got the perfect thing for you.
And while Webb's fleur-de-lis and stars don't guarantee a breakout performance, Tracy does acknowledge subpar play. It just isn't an option.
You can't get a design in your head to have the spotlight on you like that and not show up. I mean, if you play bad, then they're gonna say, oh, well, maybe it's the design. So you have to play to the expectation.
Now, Tracy says he doesn't know what his playoff look will be just yet, but we took some fan suggestions on WDSU.com, and the overwhelming response was to bring back the fleur-de-lis, and I like that one. And that was the Atlanta game, and they won.
Maybe he'll have that cut into his hair. Now, Tracy Porter is part of the Saints secondary that struggled towards the end of the year, but that was just lights out to start the season.
We went back to find out how they performed all year and gave them a final grade.
If only Tracy Porter and Jabari Greer would have stayed healthy all season, then the defensive backs probably would have gotten higher marks. But alas, we can't give them one, because their absence exposed the secondary's flaws on the depth chart. And opposing quarterbacks, they took advantage. When Porter and Greer were out, their backups were partly responsible for allowing Chris Redmond, Jason Campbell, and Tony Romo to combine for nearly 1,000 yards passing. But we can't deny when the starters were healthy, they more than earned a passing grade. The defensive backs combined for 20 of the Saints' 26 interceptions. Offseason signee Darren Sharper led the team with 9 and earned a starting spot in this year's Pro Bowl. Their grade, C+.
And just how will the Saints secondary stack up against next Saturday's opponent?
That and much more on the Saints on 6 playoff preview.
Stand up for the Saints. We talked to the hip-hop duo behind one of the Dome's favorite anthems to get fans on their feet.
At WDSU, it is our commitment to live up to the promise we make to this community each and every day.
When we uncover corruption,
I suspect that we have someone within our organization or a former person that went in and stole money.
When we provide tips to protect you and your family, if you don't prepare ahead of time, you're going to panic when something happens.
We really are on your side. That's the promise we make.
And the promise we keep every day.
WDSU is your source for politics and your home for Sunday night debates.
The District A seat on the New Orleans City Council is up for grabs. Incumbent Shelley Madura says she's not running again, but who will take her place and help shape the city's future? We put all 4 candidates to the test, answering the tough questions that matter to you.
Sunday night debates, part of Commitment 2010. See it Sundays on WDSU News at 10 and at WDSU.com.
Sometimes winning a race.
Here comes Davis down the straightaway. Is he going to have enough? Shawnee Davis wins the gold.
Means more than a medal.
The first African-American to win individual gold in a Winter Games.
And this February, Chicago's Shawnee Davis will head to Vancouver with a chance to make history.
Gold medal.
Repeat itself.
You truly put your heart towards what you're trying to accomplish. Dreams can come true.
February 12th, the Vancouver Olympics on NBC.
WDSU gives us the weather exactly the way we want it. I think the information is exact, it's convenient, and it's accurate. My primary responsibility here at the facility is the safety of our guests. So it's very important for us to know exactly when severe weather is going to approach so that we can take measures to inform our golfers and to close down the facility if need be.
On the air, online, and on the go, WDSU weather is exact weather. You're watching the WDSU Saints on 6 playoff preview from the Louisiana Superdome.
With the Eagles' loss to the Dallas Cowboys tonight, the Saints now have 2 possible opponents for next Saturday's game, the Green Bay Packers and the Arizona Cardinals. And we want to hear from the experts from both of those teams. Right now, we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers. We're joined with Dan Needles from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dan, thanks for taking a second. First of all, if the Packers come to New Orleans, what can Saints fans expect?
Well, I still have bad memories from Green Bay's last trip to New Orleans last year on Monday night when the Saints absolutely blew the Packers out of the building. Green Bay's a different team this year. Last year, their defense was the biggest problem. This year, they're a top 5 defense against the pass, number 1 against the rush. And I don't know if they have the personnel to stay with the Saints. That would be the ultimate test because Green Bay's without cornerback Al Harris and linebacker Aaron Campman, 2 former Pro Bowlers. They've held up well, but they have not faced an offense like the Saints.
My opinion is, and I've said this all week long, that Green Bay is the team that scares me the most. They've won 7 of 8, and their only loss was Roethlisberger on a miracle pass at the end of the game. And as you said, they have tremendous balance. 2nd in defense, 6th in offense. Is it fair to say, I know people are talking about other teams in the NFL, but is it fair to say the Green Bay Packers are the hottest team in the league right now?
Well, you know, it's strange how they've played. At times they have looked unbeatable, but they haven't beaten a lot of great teams. They did beat Baltimore, a playoff team, but it was a real struggle. They beat Dallas, again, a playoff team, but Dallas wasn't playing well at that point. And they beat the Cardinals, another playoff team, but most of the Cardinals starters sat out most of that game. The Packers have had problems with special teams. Their kicker, Mason Crosby, potentially in a different year, at a different time of the year, might have lost his job already. There are some problems with the team, but they have been running smoothly on offense. And like you said, they've won 7 of their last 8 games, so they've looked pretty good going into the playoffs.
All right, Dan Needles, we appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.
You betcha.
But if the Packers lose tomorrow to Arizona, the Cardinals will come to the Superdome. We're joined now by Bruce Cooper from the NBC affiliate in Phoenix, Arizona. Bruce, thanks for taking your time. What can Saints fans expect if Kurt Warner and the Cardinals come down south to play?
Well, if Saint fans watch the Cardinals in last year's playoff run, the Cardinals run to the Super Bowl, that's what they can expect. A lot of Kurt Warner putting the ball in the air to his favorite targets, Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden.
Is it fair to say that there are a lot of similarities between the Saints and the Cardinals? They throw the ball very well. Their running game's okay. Their defense is okay. To me, these teams very much mirror one another.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right, Fletcher. There's no doubt about that. Matter of fact, last year the Cardinals used the aging Edgerrin James to help balance out the passing attack. And Edgerrin James, who sat most of last year, actually came on strong during the playoffs. But the Cardinals are excited about a young man, their first-round draft pick, Beanie Wells. Beanie Wells has averaged about 115 yards rushing. I should say the Cardinals' running game is average about 115 yards rushing over the last 9 games of the season. And Beanie Wells, a big reason why, averages 4.5 yards a carry. I mean, the guy's a total combination of power, speed, and elusiveness. Cardinals are excited about what he can bring. But yes, the Cardinals very much mirror Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints passing game there.
And final question here, Bruce. Obviously, the Arizona Cardinals made a tremendous run through the postseason last year and got to the Super Bowl and almost won the Super Bowl. Can they do that again? And can they come to New Orleans and win? It's a tough place to play here. The fans are definitely the 12th man. Can they come on the road to a hostile environment and win here in New Orleans if they do beat the Green Bay Packers on Sunday?
Well, I can tell you this. Ken Wisenhunt a year ago very much concerned about the lack of playoff experience from his Cardinals team. Of the 22 starters, 16 were making their playoff debut in the Cardinals' wild card first-round game against the Atlanta Falcons. Well, let's spin it a year forward now. 17 of the 22 starters have playoff experience. So he feels a lot more comfortable in that regard. And the playoff experience, I think, has really helped the Cardinals in road games this year. The Cardinals won their first 6 road games this year, finished 6-2 on the road. That's something that the Cardinals have never been able to do, is have a above 500 road record. So it's possible that they can come do that. But as you just deadpanned a little while ago, Kurt doesn't do too well in the Dome in New Orleans down there.
All right, Bruce Cooper, NBC TV, Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Well, you know, it hasn't been hard to get Saints fans on their feet this amazing season. But one anthem inside the Dome never fails to inspire spirit. You might even say it gets Who Dat Nation crunk. Earlier, I spoke to the dynamic duo behind the popular tune and asked them if they knew how popular this song had become.
Our whole career started from us kind of adopting the New Orleans formula of music that they always had that came down from down there.
Well, you know, and then all our friends been calling us, letting us know they hear everybody saying stand up and get crunk at the game, so you know.
Yeah. Love is love.
So are you surprised that this song has caught fire like it has, considering it's been out since 2004?
Yeah, because, you know, everybody knows everything, you know, everything comes around and passes. But, you know, good music is forever, I guess. So I guess we get to get in that VIP room and stay around for a while.
Yeah, because it didn't catch on at the time when it came out.
Yeah.
It came out. Now, here we are, years later, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Now, this song is played in the Superdome during kickoffs after every touchdown. This season, that's been 33 times, an average of 4 times a game. What do you think when you hear that?
Standing up and getting crunk. What do you think about standing up and getting crunk? It's really an honor, you know, to see that our relevance is still that much at the forefront of anything considering any type of professional entertainment. So we appreciate it. I guess they appreciate it and we appreciate it. They work hard, we work hard. Let's work hard.
Say when they score, they get crunk and stand up at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of getting crunk, for those that don't know, like my co-anchor Fletcher Mackel, explain what crunk is and how does one get crunk?
For the people that don't know what crunk is.
What is it?
Crunk is, it actually was a way of life for the way we responded to music in the club, and to be on the educated terms.
Tell them.
It just means to get hyper.
Tell them.
So, you know, it wouldn't sound good to say, tell them how we gonna come hyper. Tell them how they don't want none hyper.
How you know when your favorite song come on, you know, you just start, ooh.
Oh, boy, that's it right there. Oh!
That's getting crunk.
Right.
When you hit that field goal.
Yeah.
or score that touchdown. After that, you're going to get crunk. You feel good after hitting it. So that's getting crunk.
Gotta love the Ying Yang Twins, and I know I'll be getting crunk next week at the divisional game, and the Ying Yang Twins actually may be here to help us get crunk. Now, Fletcher, this is our 4th show. I always try to get you to say it. Can you say it for me one time?
On the way out, let's get crunk. Thanks for watching our WDSU playoff preview. Let's get crunk.
Right.
Is that good enough?
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Go Saints.
I'm Scott Walker. Thanks for watching WDSU.